Hello and welcome into another edition of EntheoRadio, where we talk about shamanism, psychedelics, and altered states for healing. This is your captain, Captain Hugh T Alkemi, also known as Travar, speaking with a special guest who's a special friend. He's been on the show in this 2019 season. It's Itzhak Beery. Welcome to the show again.
Thank you very much for having me back.
Thank you. So Itzhak is someone I consider a really deep elder in shamanic traditions from all over the world. And he has brought to the world several offerings, including Shaman's Portal and these recent books that he's released, The Gift of Shamanism and Shamanic Healing. They have little subtitles, which I will probably not introduce, but all I know is that these books have really paramount material if you're studying shamanism, if you're a shamanic practitioner, if you're interested in what's going on in the world of the spirits and healing and altered states and medicines, these are the books to pick up. And Itzhak's your man, and he's here with us today, sharing some amazing stories and bringing in the wisdom of the elders whom he's going to work with in South America very soon. Tell us about what you're up to, what you've been up to in the last, well, we haven't seen you all summer. So tell us about your summer and your recent visit to California, and then what you have coming up with the travel you've got planned.
Oh, that's a long list of of things I've
Let's talk
done.
about your summer then. How was your summer?
I don't remember. It was so intense. I was in I was in Ecuador in for the winter solstice there, um, at the second annual Shamanic Andes Summit that I founded 2 years ago, and next year is going to be the third time, which is a beautiful gathering of 10 of the most powerful known shamans in the Andes. And I really concentrate on the area of that Andes because it is important for me for people to know that plant medicine is not only shamanism. My teachers are coming from the Andes, and in a way, it was my teacher request to create an event like that. I brought 10 of the most amazing shamans there, and we had 45 people from all over the world came to learn from them. We had master classes and we had healing sessions, individual healing sessions. We had hikes in nature, in the waterfalls, in the lakes. We participated in this biggest solstice ceremony in the top of the Andes with the prime ministers and with the presidents and other people, official people. We were part of, we were the delegation of it that represent the world for all those almost 5,000 people there who came from all these villages, and we danced with them, we sang with them. It was just an amazing experience. It was 9 days of total magic. And we're going to do that again in this coming June 15th to 23rd. And then after that, I went, as you know, I went to Colorado. I was teaching there, and I was teaching in many, many different places. And it's really nice that I'm able to share that wisdom. And this year, I'm trying to, not trying, but I'm doing a different event. It's called the Yaku, which is the celebration of the sacred water. Just before and at the New Year, 2020. And the idea is that to bring shamans there to do plant medicine and other ceremonies like water ceremony and sound ceremony and fire ceremonies and other healing ceremonies together with plant medicine to vision the new year, the new century that we are entering into, because there is nothing better to activate your mind and activate your visioning through shamanic journeys and through plant medicine and all these rituals that we're going to be doing there on an amazing secluded beach in Ecuador. It's almost like a private island, and we're gonna probably have around 40 or 45 people again that we will be um, celebrating the new year on that beautiful beach with the ocean, and doing ceremonies with the ocean and water. And the shamans are very excited about that because it to give them a different perspective and a different opportunity to use their medicine in totally different environment than the jungle. We have 4 different groups of people who are coming to do the ceremonies. We have the people from the Psychope, which is we call them also the Sequoia, or the multicolor people from the jungle. Those are people who uh, used to live on the borders between Peru, Colombia, and Ecuador, are very secluded, and they kept their beautiful Yaje tradition for many years, and uh, we could not bring the eldest of them, who is 106, which is yeah, which we know, and we visited with him. But the people who are the elders that are coming, they are in their 80s and late 70s, and they do the Yahe ceremony in a very old-fashioned way. And then we bring another person who is younger, but he is the grandson of Don Sabino Gualinga from the Sarayaco in Quichua community in the depths of the Amazon. He will be doing ayahuasca ceremony, and the way they do the ceremony is very powerful. And then we're going to bring a person from the Andes who is doing Huachuma, and what Huachuma is, an Andes plant.
Right. Yeah.
And he's going to be doing San Pedro or Huachuma, and I've done a few of those with him, and it's quite amazing and beautiful experience, very different than the others. And then there's another couple who is they are based in around Quito in Tumbaco. Um, Tatiana and Ruben, they come, and they're going to be doing some work with rapé and some other ceremonies. So all of that, all of those healers will be working really to activate your visioning, to kind of sharpen your intention for the next year. And I think that is now is so important because of all the I mean, the world is on fire in many ways, and we need to really figure out how each of us as an individual can commit to helping the world, helping people around the world, and help themselves to be more balanced and strong and more clear vision going forward for the next century. And it's done in a beautiful way, in a almost like vacation-like place. But the goal of it is very serious. And I'm glad that we had people for they come from Germany, from the United Kingdom, from the Netherlands, from Australia, from the United States, and in many different states. It's very exciting to be to have that. And then a couple of days later, I take a group to work with some other shamans in the Andes who are more Andes shamans. They do Limpia ceremonies and healing ceremonies for the people in a preparation to go down into the Amazon. And we're going to be visiting the Sacopai Sequoia people deep in their ancestral land, in a place where almost nobody ever went to for many years. And I'm very, very excited about it. It's going to be a little rough because we will have to be traveling by canoes for 10 or 13 hours to get there. And it's motorized canoes. Uh, so it's pretty far, but I really wanted to experience being in a totally virgin forest, primal, in places where human never walked before. To experience that, to experience the animals, to experience the spirit of nature over there, and I'm just really looking forward to it. Our group is quite a big group of 20 people, so it's going to be a little bit of a challenge how to keep them all together, and who knows what's going to happen there, because there's uh, we we're going to be totally surrounded by nature, but there's no other humans all around it. There's caimans, there are dolphins, there are monkeys, there are birds, there are jaguars, there are all of those primal
The anaconda?
animals. An anaconda for sure.
Oh boy.
Yeah. Oh, I'm looking forward
How
to
about
this.
mosquitoes? How do you feel about mosquitoes?
Well, it's part of nature, and like um, if we're not going to have mosquitoes, then we're not going to have birds. So
Mm.
so it's part of nature, it's part of the cycle, and how we're going to deal with it, that will be a, uh, a challenge. um, but I you know I never came back from the Amazon without any biting, so I always survived it. And I think that it's one of the challenges of going into the jungle is the the uncomfortableness of that, or the unknowing of going into territories and challenging yourself. That's that's part of shamanism too, and when you take ayahuasca, you never really know what's going to happen, right? Or any mushroom or any other, you go into a territory where you don't have control, uh, and you find out your way, and you find many things about yourself, how you deal with life in situations like that. Um, I'm not saying that you can go to a mall and experience that. For me, for me, it's even worse than to go to the Amazon. But it's a challenge, and I think that the group probably will be able to do that, to deal with it. And we are going with the shamans there, so they are. Uh, we're going with a big group of the Sequoia to support us, to prepare food, to hold space, and to hold the ceremonies. The ceremonies are very complex. Yeah.
It sounds like the Amazon experience that you're going to go through to visit these Sequoia people. That's like it's almost a medicine or a brew into itself. The bugs and the caiman and the river and the long ride and the boats, and that's a whole altered experience. And it's a sacred experience if you take that vantage point. Hopefully, your group will see it as that, and it'll be a life-changing experience for them.
Yeah, when I first came to the Amazon, that was in 1997 with John Perkins many years ago. I looked at pictures and I kind of like imagined what it would be like, but I couldn't really never grasp the whole amazing experience that really waited for me. And for those people who never been there before, it's it's going to be a life-changing experience. For myself, I feel more like I'm coming home, or I'm going home, and I really feel incredibly at home with that place. First of all, the air is cleaner,
Yeah.
the colors are sharper, the sounds are amazing. There's no other sounds of cars or so there's no civilizations around it. And I mean, it's pretty noisy because of the animals and the birds are absolutely very, very much alive. But I think that yes, for all of us, it's a life changing experience, and even just being in the villages or in the communities where they live, to see how people in the Amazon, those people who are actually keeping our lungs breathing, live, and how they live well with the environment, and how they take care of their children, and how they sit and laugh and spend time in such a beautiful sacred way, that it reminds us that we have alternatives, that we don't have to participate in this uh, vicious circle of modern life or digital life. And I'm actually looking forward to it, not to look at my iPhone all the time.
Oh, that's gracious. Yes. If we could just unplug and step into the mycelial and natural plant-based and the the whole ecology of the Amazon and the forest, and whether it's an old growth forest up in the Pacific Northwest of North America or it's Amazon, it has an ancient spirit, and that spirit, like your iPhone, I'm sure it sends messages all the time, and we aren't checking most of those messages lately. I mean, as moderns living in a city, right?
Absolutely. And I think that each of us need to have this sacred time to disconnect, to be in nature, to feel the vulnerability of our existence in nature, to reconnect, I mean, to be part of that natural cycle. And I think that when you come back into our society, your life changed, because you really understand that it doesn't have to be that way. Shopping is not the most exciting thing you can do. Uh, um, and but I also to learn from the tribal people how community work, how decisions are made. How do you trust your dreams, and how do you trust the plants around you to heal you? How to not fight nature, but flow with that rhythm of the day of nature. Um, you know, it's priceless. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, I have a hard time imagining what it's like to be in a place where people don't have their cell phones, and they aren't constantly on that taking pictures. It's like, whoa. Nowadays, I have this like weird fantasy about going away from smartphone and going back to a flip phone. It's like screens are so soul shattering, soul losing. It's tough. And then the reflections of our ego, it's like the ego lives in a bigger way through our screens, through our projections, through our social media, through our selfies and all that stuff. That's my opinion. I don't know if you agree or disagree.
Well, I agree with that. But if you look at all our life here in the Western world, we kind of living a dream that is not humanly sustainable, and I don't know where it's going to take us, but it's definitely not humane to be all day connected to the screen and to the news cycle, and to clothing and entertainment and fashion, and it's all done in many ways to slave you into the system, and to give you the concept that there's no other way that you can actually survive with. But if you go to indigenous people, they know that it's not true. But the sad part about it is that indigenous cultures now really wants to be like us. They think that we have it better, that we have cars and we have televisions and we have cell phones and we are educated, but um, you know one of the things that in our trips I'm always talking about is that we are here to not just to take from them their wisdom, but also to show them that we really appreciate that, and that we want to come to learn from them how to bring their wisdom to change our life, to change our dream. And I think that that's more honorable way of being with them, not just to come and take from them the ayahuasca ceremony, or without the all the other things that are around the ceremony, the way of living, and that is very important. And yeah.
So you talked about limpias, or cleansing ceremonies, purification. Could you, I know you outline it in some of your books. I'm trying to remember the exact sections, but yeah, there's like cord cutting sections. There's the different rituals that are going on for people that you've learned from down there. Maybe you can give us some examples of what limpias is, and some of those cleansing ceremonies, because that might help some of our listeners just to have some basic practice.
Yeah, so for thousands of years, and from almost every tradition, before you go into ceremony, you do some kind of a cleansing. You know, some people use smoke, some people use bells, and some people use stones, and some feathers, and all that. I mean, so the idea that your energy field around you or within you is polluted by negative energy is very common to most indigenous cultures. And Limpia, or La Limpia, the cleansing, is a ceremony that I experienced 25 years ago in Ecuador by different shamans, and it's a very powerful experience. It, from scientific point of view, it changes the negative ions and the positive ions that are around you, orbiting around you in the orb of the energy field around you. And it also, that ceremony extract negative energy from you by using eggs and other things, and it's also shield you, or creates protection around your energy field using the stones and other materials, and brings music, and it brings sounds, and it bring aromas, and it brings basically all the shamanic tools, basically to reconnect you to the cosmos, to reconnect you back into the bigger world, or to connect you with the elements. And then their thought is that when you are connected to the four elements and you are connected to nature, a lot of the other symptoms of sicknesses are disappearing, because their belief system is that you get sick because you are not balanced, because you're not connected to the water, you're not connected to the sky, to the fire, to the earth, and so on. So the ceremony uses sugarcane rum, or trago. They use fire and smoke to clear the energy around you. They use eggs to retrieve or to extract negative energy from the body, or the body part that are wounded or they need help. And it uses flowers to bring good energy, and aqua florida to blow on that to cement it, and it brings aroma to awakening your memory, or the sense of goodness. And then it create a wall or shield of protection by the energy of the lava stones that they use. And then it creates harmony all around it with sound and music and that. It's a ceremony that usually takes, sometimes can take 15 minutes, sometimes it can take an hour and a half, depending on what the person has. And and then each shaman add to it other healing methods that uh, needs to be used to heal particular symptoms that a person has. If a person have stomach ache, or if they have shoulder or back pain or all that, so they use different techniques, and they are very familiar with plants, and so they also give instruction how to use plants, or in a medicinal way. What happened to me a lot, whenever I do that, when the ceremony is done, I have a visions. I see things, and that it's just kind of like opening my third eye, and I start to see things and have visions. And many of my clients do have that too, and that is it's beautiful, and we can talk about their visions. And sometimes during those ceremonies, you also see spirit that leaves the body. People who were possessed, sometimes possession is a depossession happened in the Limpia ceremony. Sometimes you extract negative energy, and sometimes you see evil spirits that are around that person, or family members, or sometimes in that energy field you receive different messages from an ancestries, or people who are no longer on this earth, and they come to help in the ceremony. So I have many different experiences like that with my clients. Some people have, other entities, like spiritual entities, um, uh, like Hindu gods, or that
Oh,
comes, or some people work with they work with the archetypes of the Christianity, and sometimes
archangels, maybe?
people.
Yeah.
Um, I never really saw well, actually once only, but mostly, but mostly with Mary and Jesus,
Okay.
and Indian guys. And I had a woman who her whole ancestry from Sicilia came in, and she was already 3 generations removed, and she came to teach her granddaughter or great granddaughter a shamanic ceremony, and she asked her to become a shaman, and which after that ceremony she did actually,
Wow.
and she became a healer, and very very successful healer. So I mean, I know you probably know that we are all communicating with spirit on a regular basis. And the fact that we don't see them, that doesn't mean that they're not existing, and they are in many ways our teachers, our guides. They lead us to where we need to be, even if we don't even know. Um, but that happens a lot. So the ceremony, the Limpia ceremony, is like the major uh, well-being cleansing ceremony, that when people get sick or children get sick, they bring them into the shaman. The shaman sucks the energy out, remove the negative energy around, and people go home and they feel like, wow, it's strong and powerful. It happens here all the time with me. People who had cancer could not walk. They after the session, they just like walking 16 blocks. They went in New York. This one
Wow.
woman. People
So,
who were depressed and they wanted to kill themselves. After that they walk, and they really feel like they are reborn, or change their energy.
so it's
So
like
it's
spontaneous healing. It's almost like their body through way of your spirit contact, or getting, or helping them get in contact with their own spirit. They have a spontaneous healing, like they become a whole being again. Yeah.
it it is a spontaneous healing, but you have to understand that the the reason why it happened is because you remove those bad energy, or you can call it bad energy, or positive ions. Positive ions, it's negative energy. I mean, you know that if all the Wi-Fi, the G4, the G5, all the radio, we are surrounded with a lot of positive ions non-stop, and that's basically penetrate into our energy field, and that positive ions, they go down and down, and they sit on your clothes, and then on your skin, and then on your tissues, and then it goes into your bones and into your system, and that's slowing the flow of energy, or the flow of life, and that's what makes you tired, that make you nervous, that make you depressed and angry, and then at the end it gets you sick. So for you can have a natural Limpia if you go to the beach for the ocean, where you have sea salt, and the air is clear, is full of negative ions, and we call it negative ions, but some people call it chi. But it's that energy. The chi is full of negative ions. That's why you feel refreshed when you do that. When you open it up, you remove the positive ions or the negative energy. So it's a very simple but incredibly complicated, because you have to know why you're choosing certain herbs, and why do you choose certain flowers, and each of them has different energy according to the colors, according to the texture, where they come from, and all of that you bring into at the end to rebalance rebalance the body and the energy field to become more positive and negative ions balanced. And then when that happens, people feel like there's something lifted off their shoulders. They feel like they are reborn.
Interesting. So you also mentioned, I think you touched on possession, and maybe you said something about entity removal or exorcism. And there's a section in your book on cord cutting too. Are these all part of the Limpias?
Yes. So there are different ways that people are doing the cord cutting, but some shamans in the Amazon and in the Andes, they use symbolic. I mean, everything is symbolic, but they use swords and spears to cut the energy strings that connect two peoples together, or two people on landscape, or two people. It's any kind of connection between two people that is stop them from being productive and independent. And that is, I mean, the easiest maybe example to do that is with mother and a child, right? So when the mother raising a child to feel guilty for her sadness, right? So every time she's sad, the son absorbs that energy and bringing it into one part of his body. So every time that she said this, she pulls on that cord. Or if she wants him to do certain thing for her, she would say, if you don't do that, right? I mean, she doesn't have to say it in words, but if you don't do that, I will be very sad. So this kind of a guilt feeling that really bind them together in many ways, and doesn't allow them to really experience their fullness. That is the cord, the invisible cord that is between husband and wife, and brother and sisters, father and son, between all these relationships. And that's what makes sometimes could make the relationship very muddy.
Yeah.
So in other words, if you go see your father, I'll be very unhappy, or I'll be very angry, right? So the child learn to bury his emotions in his heart, or in his stomach, or in other places, and that places are places of depression or soul loss or other places like that. And what we want to do is we want to cut those cords to free the son and the father from any of those relationships, so they can actually develop relationships of independence. So they can come to a relationship independently, not from a guilt or shame or other things like that.
Interesting.
And I've done that. Shamans use that by cutting into with a knife or with a spears or around. It sounds in the beginning for me. I used to think that this is just like a joke, or like a symbol, maybe a symbol. But I was, I'm very skeptic, so I never really bought into it. But one time I did that.
You're a skeptic? Hold on. You're a skeptic?
Oh, I'm very skeptic.
All right. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
Go
you can't tell me something. I have to see it. I have to really see that it works. But anyway, so one time I was doing that ceremony in Italy for a mother and son who really didn't have a very healthy relationship. He was 9-year-old or 10 years old, and they were still sleeping in bed together and then bathing together naked. And it's just like, really was not very healthy. And so I did a ceremony for them, for both of them at the same time, the Limpia ceremony. And then I cut the cords between them. I mean, I didn't tell them, but that was the necessary thing, because I thought that it's not healthy in the way that they are continued to be their life. And so the next day she says, I don't understand why my son doesn't want to sleep in my bed, and he doesn't want to take a shower with me after that ceremony. And then they separated, and the relationships changed.
Yeah.
And it became a better relationship between a mother and son. It should be a mother and son, not a small lover and whatever.
Right.
But that energy is there. Or I had other experiences, like a wife who didn't understand why she can't energetically can touch her husband. So there's a lot of examples like that. That when you cut the cord, you allow the other person to be fully in his power or her power, and he allows you to be free to experience your power. It's not a bad thing. It's a beautiful thing. And in that, it also doesn't mean that you're going to lose connection with your son. It will just mean that the relationship will be more pure, less of addictive, less of guilt, less of manipulation. So you can, both of you can experience the beauty of your relationship. So that's cord cutting. So it's done in many different ways. There are some ceremonies that the client is doing it himself. I have that a lot here. That I draw and people journey, and they found out who these cords are attached to, and they release them. They cut them with a special saw that I have that I give them to use, or by hand, and they just like cut them out, send them away. And then there's a sense of gaining back control over your life. It's no longer there. And so sometimes it's done like that a person, the client himself is doing that, or sometimes it's done by the shamans that does that too.
I'm rather impressed. So you're having people use physical knife.
Of course.
So, and then that adds to the effect of it, both psychologically and spiritually, because it's a physical object that they can imagine is passing through the energetic field and breaking up.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, you're touching on what is a ceremony, what is a ritual. I mean, we can just sit there, meditate on creating ceremonies in our mind, but it doesn't have our body. Our body is our consciousness is experiential. We learn through experience, through emotions, and so that's where the role of ritual and ceremony. you know like when we talked about the ceremony in Ecuador. The plant medicine is one thing, but or the ceremonies are one thing, but when you do that in a group setting, and you talk about your commitment, and you make a commitment to the community, it's a whole different thing than you sit down and just write yourself in your journal, hey, I'm going to be moving to the moon, but
Yeah.
there's no commitment to it. And it's so everything that we do in the shamanic work has to come with the theater, or with the ritual ceremony, or the experiential, because that's how humans learn, through ceremonies,
through theater. Yes, and theater creates empathy amongst the tribe, right?
of course, because each person identify with the other person, because we are all, after all, we are all mirror of each other. So when I see you going through your issues, I feel your pain through my own experiences too. And that helped me to heal part of myself. So imagine you do that with 40 people or 50 people around you that are all coming for the same reason. It helps you to make a serious commitment to that. You're not just like, writing it down and then go to the mall in New Jersey,
So I kind of want to ask you about the eggs thing, because I'm sure that sounds a little bit odd to some people, and I know it's in your book. You talk about it in Shamanic Healing, right?
Yeah.
And I read some of those sections, and I've heard of witches doing these kind of techniques too. And I think, as far as I remember, there was something of, you either take a whole egg or an egg where you've popped the ends of it and you remove the stuff from the middle, and then you roll it across someone's body until it breaks. Tell me if I did that wrong in my mind.
Well, it's a combination of things, but so an egg, or chicken egg, is an incredible. It's probably the largest living cell in nature. It is a cell in a way, and the shell of the chicken egg has about 7,000 small pores in the shell,
Mm-hmm.
and that enables the cheek to breathe in and to release the
Exhale breath.
the poisons out.
Yeah.
Right. So it's breathe in and it breathe out, expand out. So it's a live cell.
I never thought about that. So the chicken is actually breathing through the eggshell.
Of course. Where do you think that they are?
I had
They are not
no
connected to
idea.
their mommy.
Okay, go on. This is interesting.
Well, the chicken sits on the egg. The warmth of the chicken is actually what makes the chicken develop, right? And it goes through the pores of the egg. Once the chick starts to breathe, it releases the poisons, the bad air, back out, right? So there's in and out, in and out, in and out.
Hmm.
So now when you roll the eggs on people's skin or body, right, the egg absorb what we call negative energy from people, or energy from people, through the 7,000 pores.
Yes.
And we use that egg to clear negative energy from we start from the top of the head, from the crown of the head, through your hair, through your face, through your neck, and mostly through the stomach, because in the stomach is usually where people bury their grief and sadness, and all the diseases are actually starting in the stomach. So concentrating on there. And what happened with the eggs, and you can try that also at home, you and everybody who's listening, take an egg and just rub it on your body, and especially in places where you have, if you have pain, and then dig in, let the egg absorb, and you will see that the consistency in the egg, the white, that if it was very shaky, it stops. It becomes like a really hard boiled egg. And sometimes incredibly heavy. And I had some people, sometimes I work with people that the egg exploded when they have cancer or when they had surgery, or totally exploded. That's a little embarrassing, but it happens. And I have sometimes eggs that they flew in the air out of my hand, because they're absorbing this energy. And so if you have, I had a guy who was drug addict, and I worked with 12 eggs in his heart center to remove the pain that he was holding. The reason why he was drug addict. Until the eggs will no longer absorb the pain anymore. So it's a great way, and but isn't that technique is used by many different cultures. You can find it in Poland, in Russia. You can find it in the East. You can find it in South America and other places like that. So it's a very old grandmother tricks you can use that if you have a headache, or if anybody have a headache, just roll those eggs on their head, especially here, because this is where a lot of the pressure goes. And then you'll see in 2 minutes, 5 minutes, it's gone.
I'm gonna run into the kitchen right now and get some eggs. Does it have to be a fertile egg, or does it matter if it's an egg from the store?
So traditionally, shamans use fertile egg, brown shell fertile eggs. And the reason why they use brown is because the brown shell is a lot thicker than the white shell.
Oh, yeah.
And it's not that you can't use the white, but the white breaks a lot faster, or explode a lot faster. So if you don't care, that's okay. But I'm using it here, and some people, I had one woman who wore white cashmere. And she had a stiff neck. So I didn't notice she didn't say that, but I worked on her neck, and the egg exploded. She was fine, but the whole cashmere was all drenched with eggs. So yeah, you can use that. It's such an easy way to remove negative energy, or basically what you say is that when a person is sick, when you have inflammation, the body is hot, and you can feel that. So if you put the eggs on it, it absorbs that heat, and then the body become cool again, or remove the inflammation. Mm-hmm. That's basic. And sometimes you do that when you have people with possession.
Oh. Well, I don't want to diminish the possession talk because this sounds serious, but I have some sort of unserious questions. Will this work? This egg technique work with things other than chicken eggs, like emu eggs, big ostrich eggs, or all these kind of eggs? Can you get like duck eggs or whatever, turkey eggs?
I assume yes. I assume yes, but I don't think about the ostrich eggs or the big ones because their shell is so thick.
Right.
I think we can stick with chicken eggs because it's more available in our supermarkets and the places.
Right.
But that another technique using the eggs is when you pass it over the body and you absorb all the negative energy, you break it into a glass of water and you can actually read. You do diagnostic reading.
Like a divination.
Like divination, and it's really more about the physicality of sicknesses, and sometimes you can see other things too, like overall condition of a person, and or sometimes it's really depend on your ability to.
I'm excited to try this.
Spirit. Absolutely.
I mean, I was reading in the book and I'm like, wow, that's interesting. I've heard them doing this in Southeast Asia. I've heard of witches doing it. The witchcraft technique is you empty the eggs like end to end, you pop holes in the shell, and then you leave the shell empty, and you set these little shelled yolked the empty eggshells, you set them around whole mostly around the house, and supposedly if there's any black magic that comes your way, the eggshell will take that and the egg will bust or break. And it's sort of a similar technique, except it's set up in a way that's like a crystal grid with eggshells, maybe.
Yeah, there are some differences between witchcraft and the shamanic work. And the shamanic work is a lot more simpler. There's no witchcraft associated with that. It's like what works. We know that when I put an egg on you, the egg absorbs into and then I just like discharge it. I bury it in, so I don't do anything with that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. So that's the way to dispose of it, is we bury the egg, or should we smash the egg?
Yeah. So you dig a hole in the ground and you put the eggs in it, and then you cover it with the soil and then step on it to break the energy, and that the energy will be absorbed by the soil or Pachamama or Mother Earth, so it can clean that energy. Yeah. Don't eat it.
Darn it.
Don't eat it. Don't give it to your dog or
okay, all right, that's good.
Or to your enemies.
All right, we won't eat those eggs. So demonic possession, did you say something about possession? Were we going to talk about that? Is that too scary? Is it too serious?
No, and I think that
Dark
maybe what we want to talk about it in the context of plant medicine and other visions that people receive, because maybe that's important to talk about it. But the idea is that negative energy or evil spirit do exist, and they exist in different forms. Sometimes they exist in a form of independent energies that are floating in the air, and you can feel them sometimes when you walk into a room or you go into other places. And sometimes they exist in a form of curses, envy or jealousy. That you project that negative energy, and I mean, then you have to really think about what is negative energy. So negative energy is any energy that is thick, heavy, that wants to stop the flow of life.
Okay.
So negative energy, it really comes mostly to stop the flow of life, right? I'm envy at you. I don't want you to be around. I want you dead, right? So that's stopping life. I'm jealous. I want you to have something bad, That's the kind of jealousy it happens. But negative energy also could be um, um, if you walk into a place where there was a war or fight or battle, you could feel that this energy comes from that place that is not flowing or happy. That also, and sometimes it comes from the negative energy that is around us in our energy bubble, and then we walk into a room, and I'm sure you know that when people walk into your room and they feel like something happened to them, and they leave the room, but they don't really leave the room. They leave the energy imprints in your room.
Yeah.
So, and that negative energy, I mean, would make you sad or depressed or confused. And then if that happened a lot, then at the end you get sick. But so there's a different way of categorizing negative energy. But I think that what important is that to understand that in the Amazonian tradition, they do see negative energies as entities, and those akuras, they are called. They are real, and I can tell you that because I'm very skeptic. That I had experienced them. I actually saw them. Totally unintended, totally not prepared. I saw them, and the way I was taught by my Brazilian teacher how to fight them or to work with them, it really cleared and healed the people that I worked with who were possessed with them. And I mean, in our culture, people don't want to talk about it much. They prefer not to talk about the evil part or the negative part. They really want to talk more like new agey, flowery, purple,
light working. Light working.
Yeah. I understand because it's a little bit. You can be a little bit fearful of that,
So let's bring it back to this this grand exposition you're taking. You're going to. It looks like you've got medicines. It says 3 different plant medicine ceremonies, sound and water ceremonies. So maybe you can illustrate some details about you haven't really talked about Yaje or Rape, which is, these are both offerings. We've heard about Huachuma San Pedro, and we've heard about Ayahuasca on the show in other episodes, as well as we've just never really talked about Yaje specifically or Rape specifically on any of my shows that I can remember.
So Rape is a mixture of tobacco that different shamans prepare. It doesn't come unified, and each one of them prepares for a specific purpose, and it contains tobacco and some grains and some bark of a tree and some kind of coal, and they are all mixed together. And when you sniff it, it opens up your nostrils and it brings more oxygen into your brain, and it opening up your ability to connect to spirit. You can do that. Many people do it just independently, or you can connect it together with the before you do ayahuasca or before you do Huachuma. That's a possibility too.
Can you tell me if that feels good or not? Because I don't I've done it and then didn't feel good to me.
Um, it's almost feel good after,
Oh, yeah.
but it's a very powerful experience. Some people feel sometimes they feel um, difficult.
Yeah. I had a great time being nauseous and throwing up on after rape.
Well, not too many people actually. Um, Not too many people actually. Whoops, sorry.
You're good.
Are we
We're
good?
okay. Yep.
Yeah. Not too many people actually um, um, uh, throwing up.
Right.
Some people actually. I had that experience only a very few times that people experience that.
It was difficult. I that was like almost a full-on ayahuasca experience for me. It didn't last as long as an ayahuasca journey, but it was definitely I threw up 4 times.
Whose work did you do?
I was working with a local man. I don't think he's a shaman per se. He was just a guide, and he had a pipe, and he blew in through my nostrils. It was a paired pipe, so goes up 2 nostrils, and yeah, it felt like a burning sensation went up into my sinus cavity, almost like I was um, putting cinnamon oil up in my sinuses. It was very, very intense. And then I was fine, a little bit of a drip coming out of my nose. And then I moved into nausea after 5-10 minutes. Yeah.
Well, that's what usually happens. But there are depend on who makes the rapé. There are some people who are doing it very gently, and some people who are doing it very powerful. It doesn't have to be the same. That's why I said that it depends who prepare it,
Right.
and what's the intention in making them. I know I'm using it usually in as a in the beginning of a Vayusa ceremony.
Okay.
Because I think that it helps to, first of all, to go through the fear, but also it helps for people to see clearly, open up the nostrils,
Yes.
all the mucus and all of that. It's kind of like very powerful, I think.
Yeah, it seems like it would have an effect on the brain and the pineal gland, right?
Yes, exactly right. It's open. It's really opened the third eye in a way.
Yeah, I'm willing to experiment more with other blends and other guides and healers, but man, that was a rough experience. I'm like, I don't know if I'm going to do this rape thing anymore.
Well, I have to tell you that I did that once in London. I mean, last year, I think it was. And this woman who was part of that, she got really, really upset, and she got really sick, and she was like totally, totally, this is bullshit. This is all of that, and she agreed to go in and do the Vayusa ceremony. And at the very end of this, we talked about what she experienced, and she was very upset. But after talking about her experience, she said that it was the most meaningful night in her life, and she came back. She came to the out of that. She came to the Andes Summit, and she did an amazing. It was an amazing experience for her. So it is a. It's a, there are some other snuffs that are a little bit more difficult than that. This is on that's on the easy side. Yeah.
Well, I look forward to one day trying one of these yopo or the.
Oh, yopo is Yopo is
Uh-oh.
I think that they should.
Oh, is this maybe?
Yopo is like throwing an atomic bomb in your mind.
Wow. Okay. Well, maybe we'll just all work with some other stuff before we try that.
I mean,
I haven't tried that one yet. You did that one.
I've done it once.
Hmm.
The Yopo, there are some people who are doing it on a more of a regular basis.
Mm-hmm.
I think once for me was enough. I'm not looking for that. And overall, I'm like you're talking the difference between Yaje and ayahuasca. So it's really important for us to understand that each ceremony have to have an intention. And usually in the Yaje ceremony, which is mostly the Sequoia people are doing, it's a different vine, similarly work similarly as the ayahuasca.
Mm-hmm.
But the ceremony is preceded by 2 nights of cleansing by drinking a different tea, and that tea is really about cleaning up your stomach or removing all bacteria and all emotional blocks from your system. So when the next day, when the next night, when you do the Yaje ceremony, it's really more about reconnect you with the universe, with the cosmos. And it's really about opening the heart. It's not so much about vision, because they look at it more as a healing, and the healing is for us to reconnect to the cosmos, which is very similar idea in essence to the Limpia ceremony. So it's not about how big is your vision, but how big open is your heart.
Yeah.
How well can you connect with all the stars and the beings in the sky? It's a huge difference, because sometimes in ayahuasca, people wants to be thrown into like the darkest places, and they're all. It's not about that at all. In the Sequoia, it's really more about how well or how big can you open your heart to reconnect with the matrix or with the cosmos. And they're beautiful Icaros are just like that.
Wow.
They weave the sound almost like a cloth. They kind of connecting all the
right the threads
of the cosmos together. And it's probably was one of the most amazing, beautiful experience that I had working with them and experience that. So it was. I don't remember much of the vision, because the vision was not really necessary. What the experience was, how well can you connect, be part of this magnificent cosmos, and that's an amazing experience.
It sounds very inviting, and feels like it would be an experience that guides an individual such as myself. I've had ayahuasca, and I've been to the light and dark of ayahuasca, but it would guide me. It would feel like enlivening and course correcting, and give us those moments of clarity that we seek on a daily basis to kind of work with our fear and overcome challenges and be courageous, because the heart really has a courageous quality to it.
Well, the most courage the heart needs is to open up.
Yes. To be vulnerable. Yes.
To be vulnerable, to surrender to the cosmos, to surrender to understand that you are part of the big picture, that that everything is possible, and you're just like floating in that beautiful creation. That is what they're talking about. They're not really talking about your visions. You know, how many people done many ayahuasca ceremonies and they don't remember one vision of that?
That's funny.
But
I don't
but,
know.
well, you may want to ask, because some people say, oh, you know, this is my 36th ayahuasca ceremony. So what did you get at the ceremony number 30?
Right. Yeah.
So
yeah, can you remember it all, just like dream logs, you know?
Most people don't. But you can feel that experience of connecting to spirit. So if you do the ceremony, the ayahuasca ceremony, more as I'm going to go on a trip, it's totally irrelevant. But if you take ayahuasca and you do that in order for you to reconnect with nature, reconnect with the gladness of life, that's a whole different experience. And you know, ayahuasca was not really invented for or made for visioning.
No? Tell me what it was for.
Well, at least in the Shuar and the people in the Amazon, originally the ayahuasca was made to clean your digestive system. That's all.
Wow.
So yes, because you see, the ayahuasca is very bitter. It's very alkali. All bitter plants are alkali, and the idea here is you drink ayahuasca to purge.
Yes.
And the purging is what takes all the bacteria, the parasites, the viruses that are no needed in our digestive system, or the whole acidity part in your food out. And how you do it? By purging, right?
Yes.
So it is more of a purging. The person that was drinking ayahuasca for vision was the shaman. And the shaman did that in order for him to be able to see where is your energy blocks, or where is your poison arrows were sent to you by your rivals or by other people in the tribe. So that is really the reason why people drink ayahuasca. It was not done to do it as a community powwow, or as a get together, or as a no. It was done for the shaman to be able to see into the unknown, into the spirit world, so he can penetrate into your body, so he can pull out your poison arrows, so he can suck out the block energies, or the fish bones in your body. I'm talking the language of the Shuar.
Right.
Okay. So that was the whole thing. It's not a party drink. But what happened now, when white people started to use it, is that they started to look at it as more as a psychedelic.
Right, tourism.
Well, it started as psychedelic, as a purist thing, and then it becomes more of a party, touristic. And now it's most people don't even remember what the real purpose of the ayahuasca was. You know, in Colombia now they sing and they do, you know, orchestras all around. You know, like all this music and all that stuff. That's never really was the thing. Ayahuasca was always done in darkness, with one shaman and one client and maybe another one, and no music, just singing.
Yeah.
And the singing is not just singing. The singing is Icaros, to call spirit to come for help.
Yes.
To guide them, or to connect you to the spirit world and to help you. But that's what it was. It was not done as a party drug.
Ladies and gentlemen, you're listening to Itzhak Beery here on EntheoRadio. Itzhak Beery is the founder of Shaman's Portal, right?
That's right.
And we want to join him. He says, join me on a stunning and sunny, secluded shore in Ecuador. Experience 7 days, 6 nights of deep shamanic mindfulness and joy. Engage in water purification, gratitude rituals, cleansing herbal baths, profound sound and vibrational music healing, transformative fire ceremonies to shed old and welcome in the new. This is all taking place for 2020, right? We're moving into the new year.
That starts on the 27th of December.
This sounds fascinating. We're going to bust through our challenges from 2019. We're not carrying any of the old baggage. We're moving forward with a clear mind, clear intention, and a truly healed space of mind, body, and spirit. And you're kind of guiding and leading the greater community of the world to these indigenous healers and sharing their teachings from your place, both in North America, New York City, right?
Yeah.
And everywhere that you visit and travel.
I welcome everybody to come and join me. It's always fun. I mean, it
sounds tough too. It's fun for sure. It's fun for crazies like me because I like challenges.
Well, we live in this body once. And we want to see how far can we go, to challenge ourselves, and then take all that beautiful and give it to other people. You know, the people who came back from the Andes Summit, the last two times we did it there, it really changed their life. You know, they committed themselves to more community work. They changed their relationship within their families, within their work. They are becoming agents of change. So, but you have to experience it. You can't. It's not intellectual. You know, it's really have to. You know, like you can't, right? You can't tell people what is ayahuasca's journey. They have to experience it.
Yeah, it's a path. You can either walk it or you can walk it and maintain it the way that it sounds like you are doing, Itzhak. You're maintaining the path and you're on it. You know,
I'm on it. And I love it. I really do. You know, I'm only doing it because I love it. You know, I really enjoy that. And I enjoy so much the meeting and being family with all these shamans in the Andes and the Amazon and other places. It's just wonderful. And I think that it's so important for all of us to do that because we know that the life we live in the West is a one-way street. It's one-way street for destruction. And the only people that can teach us really to stop that crazy and then give us a different option is those people from the Amazon, from the indigenous world.
Yes, the people closest to sustainability, and what we learn from nature is that nature always reaches, evolves, adapts into sustainability no matter what.
That's right. So join me.
Yeah. You can find Itzhak on his website, ITZHAKBEERY, ItzhakBeery.com. And then to navigate your site, you go to how do we get to that event?
You go to program, and it's in Yaje.
It's the first one under the programs tab. If you see his tabs, it's all far right on his webpage, and it's the first one on the drop-down menu there. He has so much fun stuff. Oh man, we haven't even gotten into shamanic self-defense. I'm sure you have more than just these 2 books, and these are all that I have in my collection. And you're working on more books, I hear?
Yeah.
Well, it's all right. You don't need to take a vacation because you got these wonderful journeys you're on, and there's what did you say, a 13-hour boat ride where you can take a little nap?
I always sit on the front of the canoe at the very end. You know, that's the best place to sit.
Like the girl on the Titanic. Oh.
Like that.
Okay. Well, I'm going to welcome you back on to talk about your experiences when you come back from that journey.
Thank you.
When will that be? Like February, or you'll be back in January?
I come back in January 18. Yeah.
Why are you doing that? It's going to be cold in New York.
And not only that, but I'm going from here. I'm going to Krippalo at Massachusetts, which is even colder.
Okay.
I don't know why I'm doing it.
No, I guess it's the time of your life and their challenges, and you're meeting every one of them, and you're inspiring young people like myself.
And I invite you to come join me.
Thank you so much. Thank you, listeners, for listening to EntheoRadio. Please find us on social media. You can spell that ENTHEO radio, and you can find us at old episodes entheoradio.com. That's our blog talk radio site. New episodes are available across podcast media and YouTube. You don't yet get to listen through iTunes, but I'm working on that, and we'll be seeing and talking with you very soon. This is Captain Hugh T Alkemi and Itzhak Beery signing out.